Okay, this is Nick again, back on the camera. Now, there's been a lot of talk in the wake of the Black Friday thing that you guys have in the United States of America, which we've now started to have here. I think it's the first one we've had last Friday, yesterday, which is pretty curious. And yes, there's been all kinds of madness which has been reported as a result of it. And there's been a bit of talk online that capitalism is essentially bad. Now I'm going to disagree with that cautiously, but I'm still going to disagree with it because capitalism or trade in some form or another is just the way in which we humans have always been. It's always been a question of, I'll swap you one of these for one of those. There's archaeological evidence going back, God alone knows how far, into our ancient ancestry of Homo sapiens trading in shells or beads or iron axes. So, this is just something that's what makes up our culture as human beings. And I don't think we can ever completely stop the fact that there is going to be trade and there is going to be bartering, there is going to be haggling and new ways of finding different solutions, but there are ways of reducing the power of commoditization on your life. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, I do admit and I do agree that once in a while, I buy stuff which has been made by other people. But if I want to do that, then I might as well reduce the power and impact of commoditization on my life in general. Now, I'm just going to show you something really curious. Okay, this is approaching 2 kilograms worth of brown lentils in this one little box here. Alright? And you don't only need more than like a couple of scoops of that stuff. Alright? Boiled up until it's done. Mixed with rice to actually be quite a good and balanced nutritional meal. And the value of the meal could be like about 20 or 30 pence in terms of cash costs if you get the measurements just right. Maybe you add a few more herbs and spices to it, maybe the whole cost will go up to about 40 pence per meal. But like, you compare and contrast that with something like this, which costs, now this is not a full meal. Okay, this is not a full meal. It just contains some of the kidney beans, some of the meats, some flavour, some sauce, and a few things that I'm allergic to be honest, but I still have it once in a while. But that costs about £1.60. Alright, or just slightly under that. But yet you can have a meal which will contain all of your macros, your macronutrients such as carbohydrate, protein and fat for about 1/4 the cost of that if you actually sort of act to reduce the power of commoditization on your life just a little. Alright, unfortunately it does take more work, and that's the price you pay. You can always go out and spend a bit of money and have the work done for you in terms of cooking and preparation. But if you put in a bit of time and energy yourself, then you cut down the cash cost to yourself. It means the money that you earn, whether it's a lot or whether it's a little, can actually be used in a more efficient and effective way. And you can basically look after yourself better. And as far as has capitalism gone mad? Well, capitalism itself is being unregulated, or has been unregulated. And some would argue that the crash of 0708 was as a result of deregulation. Alright, and yet on YouTube at the moment we got all these libertarian extremists who are saying that regulation is wrong, the free market should take over. Well, yeah, the free markets in the financial sector did take over and have tons and tons and tons of freedom. And look at the mess it brought us into, okay? So something has to be done about how money is used, how money is created. And I really can't provide you with a solution because I don't know enough. I've absorbed a lot of opinions out there as to how money works or how it's used. But essentially, in my opinion, I suppose, and this is just my opinion, we need to have a society and a global community which is based much more about how people think about how they use their money, how people think about how they choose to live, and ways in which they can provide themselves with more freedom from commoditization or more freedom from the corporations which are basically having a bigger impact upon the world. Now that does include the financial institutions, that does include the food production institutions or organizations or corporations, and in lots of different ways slowly finding ways of either moving away from it or lessening the impacts of these things on our lives. Now we're still going to use them, we're still going to go out to shops and buy stuff, okay? And so am I. I mean, I'm not going to end up like living in a wigwam somewhere, just you know, living the life of a nomad. I'm pretty aware of that. But I'm also pretty aware that I can do little things during my day-to-day life which can make myself a little bit more autonomous, a little bit more in control of my own life, in control of the way in which I use my money and the way that I can dispose of it. For instance, when I give to charity, which I do, I suppose, rather a lot. Okay, which means that I can become part of a different form of a debate. I can use my income and my resources in a democratic way, or a socially appropriate way in a capitalist society to provide for people who are in need, or in greater need than I am. Alright, so capitalism itself isn't bad. I think that it's a question of more regulation, more controls, and more forms of planning, which is kind of democratically agreed upon, and not just by those who have more power and more wealth, but also finding more ways of placing more power into the hands of people in general. Okay, decision-making power. Something even as simple as getting yourself lentils, rather than necessarily buying yourself a can of, of chili con carne. Anyway, that's just my thoughts for today. Capitalism isn't bad, but there's ways in which it is planned and it is used and implemented, which needs some kind of work.